Hi, everybody. Today with me, I have David Mondrus from Trive. I'm going to ask him some questions about what this project is. Hi, David. First of all, could you tell me what's your role in Trive? And then also let me know what exactly is Trive and what is it striving to do?
Hi, Desiree. Very nice to meet you and your audience.
Mhm.
So I'm the CEO and founder of Trive, and Trive fights fake news.
Okay. Um, could you, one, define fake news and then also explain how Trive does that?
Sure. So fake news is, anything that isn't true. And there are obviously different kinds of truths and different ways to say the facts, ways to leave facts out that distorts the truth. We kind of take an all-encompassing, holistic approach. The truth is the truth, and the truth is based on facts. And we can stitch those facts together and make a determination, but they're still facts. And you can put emotions around those facts and you can put judgment around those facts, but they're still facts. And that's really what we care about. We care about the facts. So we're sort of like Columbo, just the facts, man. And so the way that we find out the facts is that we take a story, and from that story, we create what's called a claim sheet. The story claims the following things. It
Okay.
claims that Donald Trump was in the White House on January 1st of 2017. Let's go check that. Was he really? And so when we create a claim sheet, and then researchers go and they review every claim. And they come back and they say, yes, he really was in the White House. And here's how we know. Here's the links showing him in the White House on that date. Look, he's holding up a newspaper. It's got the date on it, right? I got it from this place, for example. And then once they're done, their work gets sent off to verifiers. And a verifier's job is to verify the researcher's work. Now, if the verifier thinks the researcher is wrong, then the verifier can challenge the researcher. And they challenge them by creating the exact same research that the researcher did in their own light, and then presenting it to a pool of witnesses in a double-blind study.
Wow.
The witnesses don't know who is the researcher and who's a verifier. Researchers and verifiers don't know who the witnesses are. And the witnesses decide which one of those two presentations is more true. And that's the one we go with.
Okay. How are the witnesses chosen, and how are the verifiers chosen, and how are the researchers chosen?
So in the final system, we don't know who you are. All we know about you is your wallet address and your reputation score. No
Okay.
name, no social security number, no picture, none of that stuff. And so the way that you move up the levels, and you start out as a consumer, and all you're doing is consuming the feed that we're giving you, and then over time you start to participate. So the way that you move up those levels is by participating. So there's 5 levels. The most important one is a curator, and it's the curator that creates the claim sheet. And obviously the curator is the one that can skew the process the most. And so
Okay.
because of that, they're the final level to be there. So by the time you're a curator, you have spent months earning the right to be in that role. And in that role, you have the ability to make significantly more money than everybody else. So you're, in a larger average, your incentives are to do the right thing so you can retain your role.
Okay.
Below that are researchers who do the research. Below that are verifiers. Below that are witnesses, and the lowest level is a consumer. And starting with witnesses, you earn 10 times more as you go up levels.
Okay.
So as a witness, you would make, let's say, zero point 0.01 Trive coin. A verifier would make zero point 0.1. A researcher would make 1. And the curator would make the profit margin. And so she can make
Okay.
100 or 1,000, depending
Okay.
on how interesting the story is.
Okay. Um, it sounds to me that just maybe there's a possibility of the majority sort of vote by majority. Because of I guess the reputation system is going to depend on how the community feels about a certain member. Is that how the reputation system would work? And then,
Well, no, no, no. The
okay.
reputation system works by doing work. So if you're a
Oh,
consumer
okay.
and you submit a story to the system, your reputation score goes up because you submitted a story.
Oh, okay.
If you're a verifier and you challenge a researcher and you win, your score goes up, their score goes down. If you lose, your score goes down. Right? So
Okay.
it's based on actions within the system. It's not it's not a what's what I'm looking for, popularity contest.
So how I don't understand how does one decide? Oh, I guess the witnesses do. Huh.
Right.
That's interesting. It sounds definitely because the first thing I thought of when you sort of explained this to me, I was thinking of the mob rule sort of
Hmm.
mentality and how that would ruin it. But having,
Right.
I said you said there was a double blind test and nobody knows each other, and then the witnesses look at two versions of the same story. Okay,
And don't
okay,
forget, the researchers actually get research work. So if the researcher doesn't do the work and it's just nonsense, then within very quickly the verifier is challenged and the researcher drops off and they're no longer in the system.
okay. Okay, I think I get the fundamentals of the project. Could you tell me how exactly did your idea for Trive begin and when also did it
Sure.
begin? And are you guys out of the idea phase now and
Right.
have
So
a product?
sure. Yeah, yep, absolutely. So I was born in Kiev in the USSR, what is now Ukraine, and I still feel very strong. I grew up in New York City and Washington Heights, but I still feel a very strong affinity to Ukraine. And so when Russia invaded Ukraine in 2014, I actually had people in the region. I had developers working for me who were living in buildings that were set on fire and who no longer live in those buildings. Thank God everyone's okay. Russia's first opening salvo in the war against Ukraine was disinformation. It was the little green men who came into Crimea and said, "We want Crimea back with Russia." And Russia said this was Spetsnaz. They're special. Sorry, this is their indigenous population. They weren't.
Oh,
They were special forces.
huh.
And right, and it made the response from the rest of the world much slower because it muddied the waters, and therefore, Russia took over Crimea, and so they've annexed it, and God knows when and if Ukraine will ever get it back.
Okay.
The other one was the 2016 presidential election.
Hmm.
One of my issues with the presidential election was that 90% of the coverage was very negative against Donald Trump and
Hmm.
predicted a huge landslide for Hillary Clinton. Now, here's the interesting thing. If you are a Hillary Clinton supporter and you believe that was right, think about the fact that because everyone predicted she would win, many people didn't vote.
Hmm. That's
So
true.
maybe, right, so maybe the right solution is let's let the press go back to what they're supposed to do, which is report the facts. Investigative journalism is the thing that we absolutely need more of, but so little of it gets done because what the press is busy is doing is telling us what they think we should think. And I don't agree with that, right? I can make up my own mind, thanks.
Right.
Right,
I
right.
think a lot of the public has shared your, including myself, shared your frustration with the
Right,
lack of investigative journalism that's not bent on telling a certain narrative instead of just telling you what happened.
right. Exactly, exactly. And my feeling is, the political community is so polarized now, right? So everyone is really, really left or really, really right, and it's really hard to meet in the middle and talk. What I want to do is let's establish the facts. Let's make sure that pick a topic. It doesn't matter what it's gun control, abortion, income, income disparity, whatever. Let's establish the facts.
Hmm.
Then we can have a real conversation. We can acknowledge that there's a problem if there really is one. We can agree on the extent of the problem, and maybe we can figure out some solution to the problem. But if we
Okay.
can't come to that middle ground of understanding the facts and really agreeing with the problem, you can't solve it.
Yeah, I'm curious about how the interface will work. So, is it that I'm going
Right.
to go to a news article and there's, say, a Tribe extension in my browser that
Right.
tells you how this story was rated by the Tribe
Right.
community? Okay.
Right. So you're going to have a browser plugin. Okay. So let me rewind a little bit about where we are.
Hmm.
Right. So we've been going through several iterations, and we had one piece of software last year that was a browser plugin. We've moved on from that. Now we have a different piece of software that's a browser plugin. And what we're working on now is what we just launched last week is a product called Verify by Trive.
Okay.
And so it's verify.tribe.news. And what this is your ability to verify a single piece of data. So you're on the internet, you see something and you think that it's wrong. You use the browser plugin to select that piece of data. You send it to us. And on the back end, we have researchers and verifiers looking at that data and coming back with a score. It's not the whole thing. It's really early in the process. It's not decentralized. There's no blockchain component, but
Okay.
it's the beginning. It's the beginning. In the long run, what you have is a browser plugin that acts as both a browser plugin and a wallet. And using that plugin as you're browsing the web, you're going to see scores next to stories that we've rated. So let's say you're on Drudge and you have that list of links. Next to each one of those links, you'll have a score.
Okay.
And depending on that score, you can decide what to do. So for example, if the score is below 50, you might decide you don't see it at all. The link simply disappears. It's replaced by a white space, right? Because why waste your attention span? If it's between 0 and negative 50, which means it's sort of false but not all the way, maybe it's really gray and kind of hard to see. So your eyes don't focus on it, but it's there. You can click on it if you want to. And then above that, the links are brighter and easier to see. And the point of this is to protect your attention span. Because why would you want to waste your time and your energy on things that aren't true? Right? We've gone through the process. We've given it a score. The score is poor. Just don't bother. But you, the consumer, have the choice, right? We will never remove the links without your consent.
Okay.
It's consent in your wallet, and you set those options, right? Censorship without the knowledge of censorship is abhorrent to me. It's one of those things that's 180 degrees against my grain, precisely because of USSR and Kiev.
I think you sort of touched on it already, but could you just emphasize to people why what Trive is trying to achieve in terms of pointing out what information is fake news and what is true news, how that's different from, say, Google when you're using the search engine, or
Right.
Twitter when something comes up in your newsfeed, or
Right.
YouTube when you're searching.
Right. So all of those mediums don't have a quality score. They might have a quality score in terms of how many people have seen it, how many people have given it a thumbs up, but there isn't a third-party independent verifier of the information that they are putting out there. And that's what we do. So when we're giving it a score, we're giving it a veracity score. This thing is honest to this degree. And it'll work on any link. So it'll work on Google links, YouTube links, Twitter links. It won't work on the Facebook main wall, but it'll work on each individual posting within that wall.
Okay.
Right. And our mission is to get rid of lies on the internet. And, the thing is, though, media incentives are wrong, and they've been wrong for a very long time. By the time that you have read their story and you are in a position to decide if what they're saying makes sense or not, they've already monetized your attention span. Right. They've already made their money. They don't care. And so imagine a world where everyone uses Trive, the plugin, and a world where we're always doing the scoring. And all of a sudden, they find that some stories are doing really well, and they're paying, and they're doing good. And some stories are not, and they don't know why. And then they figure it out. The ones that aren't making money are the ones that we've marked as negative because they were false. And now all of a sudden they have this huge incentive that, guys, if we want to make money, we better not print false things.
Okay. Can you tell me what your timeline is for everything?
Yeah, sure. So we had a small fundraise last year. We're doing another fundraise now. And so obviously our progress is contingent on that. Okay. But we're expecting about, so our next step is, just before we get to the timeline, our next step is to fork a blockchain. We're thinking Dash.
Okay.
And to create a mineable coin that we then can list on an exchange.
Okay.
And so if it is Dash, you're going to end up with a fork that has 3 types of miners. It has proof of work miners, as now, proof of stake miners, as now, and one of the first human action mineable coins. You're getting paid to do the work on the Trive system from the blockchain itself, not from Trive the corporation. And it's a DAC that lives on its own, so if Trive the corporation ever goes away, the coin and its foundation and everything else still exists. And so our timeline is that about 6 months after funding, we launch that fork, and then we start iterating development milestones on top of that fork. And so we have hard forks every, let's say, 3 to 6 months with new features and new design. And at the end of about 18 months, we get the final product.
Okay. And my final question is, how can people find you to become a part of your community and help it grow?
That's the best question.
Yeah.
So you can always find us on trive.news, and we encourage you to come there and register and be a Triver. and start verifying the news information, and eventually you'll get paid. And that's the thing, right? So participate in citizen journalism, verify news to make sure that lies don't spread on the internet, and get paid. How much better can it be?
I think the best part of what you guys are doing that I like is you pointing out censorship where you don't know what's being sent, where you don't know that censorship is occurring,
Right,
and the fact that you're allowing people to see the rating, but you're not removing content that you
right,
deem unreasonable or
right.
whatever.
Well, we don't have the power to, and we don't want to be censors. But I think it's within our right to say that's not true.
Right, right. I think that's awesome. Well, thank you for coming on. Everyone, you should go to tribe.news and find out more about this project that will solve a lot of issues that we're facing societally today, especially the point about simply removing the political polarization that has been occurring lately these days. So thank you, David, for
Thank
coming on.
you. Ciao. Thank you.